Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We'll take a look at the MLB schedule today, a full slate of 15 games. First, we'll do the question of the day. I forgot again to give you the answers yesterday, so we'll go through that first. The first question was, in marking a baseball scorecard, what does a K stand for? Well, that's usually fairly easy, I would think. It stands for a strikeout. The second question, a little harder probably. You got to be probably older, like me, nearly 70. What was pitcher Dizzy Dean's first name? His name was Jerome. Dizzy Dean, for those of you who are unfamiliar with him, he was his own man. He said what he felt. He even ended up being a play-by-play broadcaster for the NBC Game of the Week in the early days, and he he'd say things like the runner slid into third base, and he was I think he was probably from Appalachia or something very similar to that. Also, I think while he was playing, he either got, because in those days he was a pitcher. In his day, the pitchers batted, and he either got hit with a pitched ball, or he was pitching and got hit with a batted ball back to the mound in the head, both in the head anyway, and so he went to the hospital. And the headline in the I'm going to say one of the New York papers was uh, doctors take brain scan of Dean's, or doctors scan Dean's brain, found nothing. So that was, and he lapped that up. He just thought that was hilarious. Yes, I thought he was kind of a hillbilly. Anyway, that's yesterday's questions. Today's questions, and there's two of them again, because again, this card has two questions, so we'll use them both. The first one is, where were the Braves prior to being in Atlanta? Where were the Braves prior to being in Atlanta? And the second question, Joe DiMaggio had two brothers in Major League Baseball. Name either of them. Two brothers, Joe DiMaggio. Name either of them. Just have to name one, but get extra points if you can name them both. So now, let's look at the games. For today, Saturday, March 29th, as I said, there were 29 games. Or sorry, the 29th, there were 15 games. The first game this morning was Milwaukee and the Yankees. I got a late start on that one. I go for coffee every Saturday morning with friends, and we solve all the world's problems. And that usually takes us about 2 hours. So I got home and the game was well underway. But the Yankees, they put up a bunch of crooked numbers in that game, the first four innings, and parlayed that to a 20-9 win over the Brewers at Yankee Stadium. Aaron Judge led the way, going 4 for 6 with 3 home runs, 4 runs scored, and 8 RBI. In total, the Yankees struck for 9 home runs in the game, which tied a team record. Um, that's still one behind the Toronto Blue Jays, who hit 10. I can't remember the year now. Including, of those 9 home runs, 3 of them were hit on the first 3 pitches of the game. Paul Goldschmidt, Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm Jr., Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, and Oswald Peraza had the other 4 baggers, besides the 3 that Judge had. Yoendis Gomez picked up the win. He's now 1-0 for the Yankees, and Nestor Cortez took the loss for the Brewers. He's 0-1. The line score, the Yankees were 20 runs on 16 hits and 5 errors, if you can imagine that. And they still managed to win the game quite handily. The Brewers, 9 runs, 13 hits, and 1 error. The next game, Los Angeles Angels and the Chicago White Sox. The Angels scored the only run of the contest in the top of the 8th inning to defeat the White Sox 1-0 in Chicago. The run came when Jorge Soler walked, went to third on a wild pitch, and scored on Yoan Moncado's infield single. Jose Soriano, 1-0, was the winning pitcher for the Angels, allowed 2 hits and no runs. Kenley Jansen got the save. That was his first of the year. And Mike Clevenger took the loss for the White Sox. He's now 0-1. The line scores fairly simple. The Angels 1 run, 8 hits, no errors. The White Sox no runs, 2 hits, and no errors. Following that, another game in the Midwest, Minnesota at St. Louis. Tied at 1-1, the Cardinals scored 3 runs in the home half of the sixth to take a lead they never relinquished, defeating the Twins 5-1 in St. Louis. Nolan Arenado got things going for the Cardinals with a leadoff double, scoring on Ivan Herrera's single. Herrera then scored along with Alec Burleson when Lars Nootbaar singled, and the Cards never looked back. Cardinals' Eric Fedde, who's 1-0, picked up the win, going 6 innings, giving up 2 hits and 1 run. Jorge Alcala, now 0-1, took the loss for the Twins. The line score on the day, St. Louis 5 runs, 10 hits and an error. The Twins 1 run, 3 hits and an error. Next up was Baltimore and Toronto in another high-scoring contest in this series. The Orioles, trailing 4-2, scored 4 runs in the top of the 4th inning and never looked back in defeating the Blue Jays 9-5 in Toronto. The Orioles hit 3 home runs, but none of them were part of the 4-run or of the explosion in the 4th inning. Ryan O'Hearn led off the 4th with a double, and then from there, 2 hit batters, a walk and a sacrifice fly equaled 4 runs, and the Orioles never trailed again. Richard Lovelady took the 0-1, took the loss in relief of Max Scherzer, who left after 3 innings complaining of lat problems. He thinks it's related to a thumb injury he had, I guess, from the end of last year. And he's saying it's all tied in. He's going to be evaluated in the coming days, but he just by the words he was saying, he's not going to pitch until it's all taken care of. And it's taken a long time already. So how much longer will it take? Orioles starter Dean Kremer, who's now 1-0 through 5.1 innings to get the win. Colton Cowser led off the game with a home run for the Orioles, while Jordan Westburg had 2 home runs, one in the 1st and another in the 7th inning. Andres Jimenez, who was considered a light-hitting second baseman, has hit his 2nd home run of the season for the Blue Jays. They picked him up from the Indians. The Blue Jays struck out 14 times as a team, including 3 times in the 9th at the hands of Felix Bautista, and I hope he comes around. He was the Oriole closer for a few years, and he got hurt, and he just hasn't been the same since. But today maybe is a start of good things to happen for him. The Orioles were 9 runs, 12 hits, no errors. The Blue Jays 5 runs, 8 hits, and no errors. Next up, Philadelphia and Washington. In a game that was tied at 2-2 after 5 innings of play, the Phillies scored 5 runs in the 6th and 3 more in the 7th on the way to an 11-6 win over the Nationals in Washington. Kyle Schwarber and Brandon Marsh provided the big blows, Schwarber hitting a grand slam in the 6th inning and Marsh hitting a 3-run dinger in the 7th to provide the margin of victory. Bryson Stott had an earlier home run for the Phils. The Nationals had some long balls of their own, Keibert Ruiz, Ahmed Rosario, and Nathaniel Lowe all hitting big flies, but it wasn't enough when combined with the other side of the coin, 15 strikeouts by the Nationals. Starter Jesus Luzardo, now 1-0, picked up the win, throwing 5 innings and striking out 11. Colin Poche, who is 0-2 on the season, took the loss for the Nats. Line scores: Philadelphia 11 runs, 14 hits, no errors. Washington 6 runs, 12 hits, and no errors. The next game, Cleveland and Kansas City. Trailing 3-1 after 5 innings, the Royals scored 1 run in the 6th and 2 more in the 7th to defeat the Guardians 4-3 in Kansas City. Stephen Kwan had given the Guardians a 2-run lead with a home run in the top of the 5th, but Salvi Perez drove in Kyle Isbell to get the Royals within 1 in the 6th, and Michael Garcia homered to lead off the 7th to tie the score, and Kevin Biggio singled and scored when Bobby Witt doubled to take the lead and eventually the win. Daniel Lynch, who is now 1-0, picked up the win in relief of Seth Lugo, and Carlos Estevez got his first save of the season. Paul Sewald, who was 0-1, took the loss for the Guardians. The line score: Kansas City 4 runs, 10 hits, no errors. Cleveland 3 runs, 5 hits, and no errors. The next game, Cincinnati and San Francisco. Tied at 2-2 with the Giants, the Red got a sixth-inning home run from Christian Encarnacion Strand to defeat San Francisco 3-2 in Cincinnati. In contrast to a day of crooked numbers in the earlier Milwaukee Yankee game, the Reds and Giants scored one run at a time. Wilmer Flores hit a home run in the second, and Heliot Ramos scored on a single by Jung-Hoo Lee in the third for the Giants, while Matt McLain hit a home run in the third and then doubled to be later batted in by Ellie De La Cruz in the fifth frame to account for the earlier Red runs. Starter Nick Lodolo, now 1-0, pitched 6 innings to get the win for the Reds, and Emilio Pagan picked up his first save. Spencer Bivens, who's 0-1 now, took the loss for the Giants in relief of Justin Verlander. The line score: Cincinnati 3 runs, 8 hits, no errors. The Giants 2 runs, 8 hits, no errors. Next up, Colorado at Tampa Bay. In a low-scoring affair, the Rockies defeated the Rays 2-1 in Tampa. Leading 1-0, the Rockies added what proved to be an important run in the seventh when Hunter Goodman doubled and was driven home by Kyle Farmer. The Rockies would need that run as the Rays tallied once in the eighth when Christopher Morale singled and eventually scored when driven in by Taylor Walls. Luis Peralta, who was 1-0, got credit for the win, while Seth Halverson picked up his first save. Zach Littell, who's 0-1 now, was the hard-luck loser, giving up only 4 hits in 6 innings. The line score: Colorado 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors. Tampa Bay 1 run, 12 hits, and no errors. Pittsburgh at Miami in what may have been the most exciting game of the day. And I was happy to. I'm now at this point of the day. Now I'm watching 5 or 6 games at a time, just flicking back and forth on MLB TV. In what may have been the most exciting game, the Marlins beat the Pirates 5-4 in 12 innings. Tied 3-3 after 9 innings, the teams traded single runs in the 11th before the Marlins loaded the bases by virtue of a ghost runner, an intentional pass, then a Pirate error. Eric Wagman grounded into a force play at the plate with the Pirates employing 5 infielders, but Dane Myers hit a 1-out single over the heads of a drawn-in outfield to send Marlin fans home happy. George Soriano is now 1-0. The Marlins' 7th pitcher was credited with the victory, while Joey Wentz, who's now 0-1, took the loss. The line score for Miami was 5-13 and 5 runs, 13 hits, and 1 error. Pirates were 4 runs, 9 hits, and no errors. Boston and Texas. The Rangers, using 6 pitchers, defeated the Red Sox 4-3 in Arlington. Leody Taveras scored what proved to be the winning run when Marcus Semien drove him home in the 5th inning. Adolis Garcia went 3 for 3 with 2 doubles and a home run to lead the Ranger offense. Wilyer Abreu continued his fine start for Boston, hitting a double and scoring on a bases-loaded walk to Rafael Devers in the 2nd inning. Christian Campbell had a home run for the Red Sox. Hobie Milner was credited with the win. He's now 1-0, while Chris Martin got his first save of the season for the Rangers. Red Sox starter Walker Buehler took the loss, and he's now 0-1. The line score: Texas 4 runs, 8 hits, no errors. Boston 3 runs, 7 hits, 1 error. Now staying in Texas again, the Mets in Houston. The Astros got a 5th inning home run from Jeremy Pena and a 2-out RBI double from Yordan Alvarez in the 6th to defeat the New York Mets in Houston. The Mets' only run came in the top of the 6th when Jose Siri walked, stole second, moved to third on a Francisco Lindor flyout, and finally scoring on a Juan Soto groundout. Soto had the Mets' only hit, a double in the 1st inning. Starter Spencer Arrighetti threw 6 innings, allowing 1 run and striking out 5 to pick up his first victory of the season. He's now 1-0. Josh Hader got the save, his first of the season. Griffin Canning is now 0-1. He threw 5 2/3 of 4-hit baseball and picking up the loss for the Mets. Houston's line score was 2 runs, 5 hits, and no errors, while the Mets were 1 run, 1 hit, and no errors. They talked a little bit about it, this great offense that the Mets have put together. And doesn't that happen sometimes, right? get this great offense, and they really haven't hit at all yet. Early in the year, that will probably change. Next up, Atlanta at San Diego. San Diego Padres scored the only run of the game in the seventh inning when Yuli Gurriel drove home Jake Cronenworth to get the Padres a 1-0 victory over the Atlanta Braves in San Diego. Cronenworth got on base with 2 out when he lined a pitch back to the mound, hitting Braves pitcher Aaron Bummer in the foot. The ball then deflected into the third base dugout. I've never seen anything like it. That's a ground rule double. So he's standing on second base. Then the Braves walked Xander Bogaerts intentionally just to set up a force. There was 2 out, but get an out at any base. It was 0-0, and Gurriel drove in Cronenworth with the only run of the ball game. Wandy Peralta, on in relief of starter Randy Vasquez, picked up the win, and he's now 2-0. Adrian Morijon picked up his first save of the season. Aaron Bummer, unfortunately, took the loss. He's now 1-0. Starter Spencer Schwellenbach started, but he pitched well. Both of them did, actually, neither allowing a run over 6 innings. That being, let's see, who was the starter for the Randy Vasquez for the Padres, and Spencer Schwellenbach for the Braves. No runs over 6 innings, either of them. The Padres line score 1 run on 4 hits, no errors. Atlanta, no runs on 5 hits and no errors. Another exciting game, the Cubs at Arizona. The Cubs survived the 9th inning rally to defeat the Diamondbacks 4-3 in Phoenix. Chicago had built a 4-1 lead going into the 9th thanks to Pete Crow Armstrong scoring on a Miguel Amaya double in the 4th, a 2-run homer by Kyle Tucker in the 5th, and a leadoff pinch hit home run by Matt Shaw in the 7th, setting the stage for an Arizona comeback that fell just short. Josh Naylor got the D-backs going with a single to lead off the bottom of the 9th, setting the table for Eugenio Suarez, who hit his 4th homer of the season to make the score 4-3 for Chicago with none out. But after a single by Gabby Moreno, former catcher for the Blue Jays, who was lifted for a pinch runner, and then a strikeout, a pop-up, and a base on balls, Arizona found themselves with men on first and second and 2 out. A slow ground ball. Now this is really interesting. Okay, think about this. Runners on first and second. Corbin Carroll, who can really run, he's left-handed batter, hit a slow ground ball to the shortstop. Dansby Swanson, the Cubs shortstop, held on to the ball because he knew he wasn't going to get Carroll. I think he might. I'm trying to remember. I saw it. He might have faked a throw, and the runner, the pinch runner, where is he? I just want to find his name. Garrett Hampson. He was on second. He was anticipating a throw to first, and maybe at the very least he was going to round the bag. Well, Swanson didn't throw the ball. Now Hampson's off the base by 10, 12 feet, and Swanson ran at him from where he was, tagged him out for the 3rd out, and that ends the game. At the very least, it would have been bases loaded with 2 out, but Swanson's quick thinking got the Cubs out of any further danger. Shota Imanaga, who's now 1-0, got the win for the Cubs, throwing 7 innings of 3-hit, 1-run baseball, while Ryan Presley got his first save of the season. Arizona Brandon Fott, I'm going to have to check that out, threw 6 innings and taking the loss. The Cubs line score 4 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. Arizona 3 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors. Just on the West Coast now, Detroit at the Dodgers. The Dodgers survived a shaky start from heralded rookie Roki Sasaki by erasing an early Tiger lead, then pulling away in the late innings to defeat Detroit 7-3 at Dodger Stadium. The Tigers scored 2 first-inning runs against Sasaki, but the Dodgers scored one of their own in the first and another in the second to draw even before adding 5 more runs over the 5th, 6th, and 7th frames to win going away. Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, and Tommy Edman had home runs, while Teoscar Hernandez and Freeman had 2 RBI. Former Dodgers Zach McKinstry and Manny Margot had 2 hits each to lead the Tigers. Anthony Banda, one of 7 Dodgers pitchers, was credited with the win. He's now 1-0. Tigers starter Reese Olson, who's now 0-1, took the loss. The line score, the Dodgers 7 runs, 7 hits, no errors. The Tigers 3 runs, 6 hits, no errors. Roki Sasaki, I mentioned, from Japan, much heralded. But they think he's going to be great, and he probably will be, but he's fairly young. He looks like he's about 12. Anyway, he threw 41 pitches in the first inning, and that is a lot. They like you to throw about 15 per inning. So he only lasted, I think, an inning maybe a third inning and 2/3. And it shows in the number of pitchers the Dodgers having to use 7 in the game. That is also a lot. So the final game of the day, the Athletics at Seattle. The Athletics win their 2nd in a row over the Mariners, winning 4-2 in Seattle. The Mariners took an early lead when Rowdy Tellez, people remember him from all over the league in Toronto, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, and maybe other places as well. Tellez reached safely on a single before Victor Robles sent him home with the game's first run, but the A's scored twice in the 4th and once in the 6th to go ahead 3-1, and they would not trail again. Shea Langeliers got the Athletics rolling with a 2-run homer in the 4th, and then J.J. Bleday walked and came home on an RBI single off the bat of Miguel Andujar. From that point, both teams added 1 run each, the Athletics maintaining their lead for the victory. Osvaldo Bido went 5 innings to move to 1-0, picked up the win for the A's, while Mason Miller picked up his first save in his first appearance of the season, striking out 3 of the 4 batters he faced in the 9th for the save. Mariners starter Bryce Miller is now 0-1, suffering the loss, allowed 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings. The line scores, the Athletics 4 runs, 9 hits, and 2 errors. Seattle 2 runs, 5 hits, and 1 error. So that's it. That's all the games for the day. I couldn't even tell you what the standings are right now because it doesn't really matter. They're all 3 games basically. There's 159 to go for most teams. So tomorrow, though, 13 games. I think I know I did mention it. An odd Sunday off for a couple for 4 teams, as Detroit and LA won't play tomorrow, the Dodgers, and Boston and Texas won't play. But the other 13 matchups will still be the same, probably at a little bit different times. And the first game is going to be at 1:35 Eastern, 10:35 here on the coast. And the last game will be at 7:10 Eastern, 4:10 on the West Coast, and that's the national game. That will be the Braves and the Padres, and if they have a game like they did today, it'll be well worth watching for a early Sunday evening. So what else? Oh, let's do these the answers for the trivia question. Okay, where were the Braves prior to moving to Atlanta? There's actually 2 answers, but the one prior. They started as the Boston Braves, and they from 1903 to 1955, I'm going to say, early 50s, maybe 53. Then they moved to Milwaukee, where they stayed, and I believe it was in 1966 when they moved to Atlanta, and that's where they are today. As far as the Joe DiMaggio's brothers, again, you probably got to be older to get this one, but his brothers, one was Dom and one was Vince. I'm going to say one of them played for I'm not sure now. I know one did play for the Red Sox. Gee, I can't remember. They all played, though, in the Pacific Coast League before they made it to the major leagues. They played with before the Giants came to the Giants and the Dodgers came to California from New York. The DiMaggio brothers all played for the San Francisco Seals of the Pacific Coast League. So that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you've got any about anything. I mean, about the maybe if you have already put the answers in. I hope you did. Um, and if you haven't done so already, please hit like and subscribe. It helps me get out there more if you do the likes, and of course, the subscriptions help too. I really appreciate your support. I will talk to you again soon.